So thank you everyone for being here for Just Yin. Making sure that you have a bolster or a couple of pillows available to you, and maybe even a couple of yoga blocks. Foam or cork blocks work really well. We can start either seated on our block or off of our block. We'll come into easy pose with the legs crossed. Drop the head down, take a moment just to find some grounding. Maybe close your eyes. And then just start to find your breath in and out of the nose. If your palms are face down, allow them to come face up. Thumb and index fingers can stay connected. Allowing your breath to move like any ocean breath in and out of the nose. Maybe even noticing the chest rise and fall. Sitting up a little taller through the spine. Take your left palm to face down. Take the peace fingers of the right hand to the middle of the forehead. Take the thumb to close the right nostril. And then breathe in and out of the left side only. Take a couple more breaths in and out of that left side. And with the eyes still closed, bring both palms to face down on top of the knees or the thighs. Continuing with that ocean breath or ujjayi breath in and out of the nose. Maybe taking the tongue to the roof of the mouth to soften the jaw. Slight roll of the shoulders down and away from the ears. Drawing the elbows into our ribs. And as we feel a bit more purpose here of lengthening the spine, try not to add stress though to the shoulders or the hands. Reminding ourselves that we're still being gentle and a bit more passive with our practice. Bring your hands behind you. Fingertips can face the back of your mat. Tilting your head back as well and feeling this openness through the front of the heart, all the way up to the throat. Maybe changing your exhales to out of the mouth. And if it's safe for your neck, go a little further and tilt the head back. Drop the shoulders down. And then sighing out of the mouth to release that jaw. Big exhales out. And tuck your chin to your chest. Take your hands out in front. Interlace your hands around your spine. And then bring your hands to your heart. Anjali Mudra, close the eyes and take a few breaths to set intention for your practice today. We'll come into our first asana, our first posture. We'll take the legs into a straddle, and we'll take any props that we're using for support to the inside of the left leg or the right, whatever one you want to start with. And we'll bring the right foot in. I'm using the left leg because it's closer to the camera. So if you feel like you want to do the opposite, we'll eventually come to that other side. So lining up our bolster, maybe even using our block to bring some height, lining it up with our leg, squaring our shoulders to that bolster or leg if you're not using a bolster, bending slightly in that knee, and then just draping yourself over, maybe stacking your fists, bring the forehead down, or maybe you're going to bring the forehead right on top of your prop. Remember to be gentle here. Another option is to even bring, if it's soft enough, on top of the extended leg. And then start to find your breath as we will hold this pose. Be nice and gentle. Letting go of tension in the hand and the jaw. Noticing if the mind has wandered at all, maybe focus sending your breath through the back of the hamstrings up to the lower back. Taking a couple more breaths here. And as you slowly roll up, we'll bring our hands maybe behind our spine, lifting with our heart. And take that leg out and just take that easy transition to the other side, or simple transition, I should say, just let's match it. The leg is extended. We're moving our props over, squaring our shoulders, and then coming into that forward fold, leaning over that extended leg. Embracing that space and that quietness that's been created here. And just trusting that you are meant to be in this pose right now. And if the mind wanders, count maybe the breath or focus on a specific area. Noticing any tension in the jaw, any tension in other areas of your body. We'll stay for 3 more breaths and keep those breaths nice and deep. Try to lengthen them on that exhale. And once you've completed that 3rd breath, slowly start to roll up. Allow your props to fall out to the side. Taking that other leg out, our hands behind us will lift the heart. And bring our feet into the mat. Come into a little hug, a rabbit pose. Maybe tuck your chin. And gently bring the head above our heart. We're going to set up for our dangle. So in our yin practice, there aren't many standing poses. This will be our standing forward fold. So I recommend, if you have 2 blocks, to use them. I have a taller and thicker bolster, so this should be plenty for me. So I'm going to bring it to the top of my mat. I'm going to step forward, finding your forward fold, and I want you to take your feet maybe a little wider. Maybe even angle the toes out if you feel that's more supportive for your lower back. And just rest your hands on your blocks or your bolster, drop your head down. I have a bit of a bend in my knee here, so I'm not extending through the hamstrings and creating too much tension. You can slightly lift the back of the legs, but remember to be a bit more passive as we're going to hold this pose, dropping the head down in that inversion, and then softening the grip of our hands. So this time, similar area that we just worked on, but maybe focusing right on that sacral chakra area, that lower back, and imagining our breath as if we're sending some warmth to that space. And feeling the belly as it rests on our thighs, and feeling that bit of maybe soft compression, tissue to tissue, or medium compression, tissue to bone. Three more breaths. We're slowly going to find our way either into a cat-cow or into a down dog. Your choice for your counter pose. And come into a tabletop if you're in your down dog. And we'll bring our blocks back to the top of our mat. From our table, we'll bring our left foot forward, Coming into our baby dragon, we'll tuck the toes, that back leg, maybe heel toe that foot a few times to make more of this ramp at the back quad. And we're gonna maybe bring our hands either to the inside of our foot or to frame our foot, whatever feels best for you. If you have the option for 2 blocks, then frame your foot. If you only have 1 block, recommend hands to the block or your bolster. Maybe a little rounding of your spine here, sinking into the hips. And then finding that edge. So we're starting to feel maybe a bit more of our tapas in our practice, getting a bit more uncomfortable, trying not to go past that place that starts to create harm in our practice. So getting a little taste of that edge and then maybe drawing back from it. Our edge could be the space on that physical level where maybe we're finding more tension in the body, more sensation, or on that mental level when the thoughts are getting a little heavier or even just taking us a little away from our mat. So if any of those are your cues, then that's your reminder to maybe make an adjustment to come out of this pose or sit a little taller. And then focusing on the breath into that hip. Gently coming back into our tabletop, moving through a cat-cow. And then back to that neutral table, setting up on the other side. So right foot steps forward, maybe picking up that back knee, planting it back to our mat, moving the blocks, any props that you're using to bring the mat closer to you. A little press of your back hip forward. Maybe rounding the spine, similar to our cat pose, or just keeping the head lifted. Three long breaths. Slowly pressing back into cat-cow, or maybe you want to join me coming into a down dog. Whenever counter pose again, you're being called to. And if you took down dog, then we'll meet in table. and 2 blocks to the outside of our hips if we have them, or maybe a thinner bolster in front. I'm not going to use either, but you might decide you need it. Actually, I do have a thinner pillow available, so this might be just enough. We're working into the front of the shin. If you know that you have a knee injury, then I'm going to recommend coming to seated and doing 1 foot at a time, pointing your toes and drawing that foot back to work into the top of the shin. If you're okay to be on your knees and your shins, we'll sit back on our heels. The toes are untucked. I'm bringing that lighter pillow underneath my knees for support and staying there, or using blocks for support and floating my knees off. This pose for me is actually a bit more comfortable or accessible. So I like to have my knees floating if that's where you like to be, or use the support of any props that feel good. Tall from the spine again, hands to blocks or tent the hands, hug the core in, and then soften the shoulders, maybe close the eyes. So breathe into the front of the shin. You can do 1 foot at a time, pointing the toes and drawing the toes back. If you're doing 1 leg at a time, please switch. Take 1 more breath. And then we'll come down to our knees or extend the legs. You may want to come back to table and just move the feet from side to side. Or you can stay seated and do a little windshield wiper for your knees from side to side. And then coming into the opposite of that, so toes are going to tuck and we'll sit back on our heels into our toe squat. If you want, you can keep the hands on the ground to brace, or you can walk them up the thighs and sit back on your heels. Again, a smaller pillow could even come onto your ankles. Maybe hands to your thighs. Breathing into the spaces of the arch of the foot. These meridian lines are connected with our gut, so feeling maybe any sensation that might be coming up in Manipura, try to breathe deep into the belly. We're almost there. Couple more breaths. Walking our hands back down, coming off of the toes, and then taking the feet from side to side. Okay, so we're going to find our way onto our belly. Now, this bolster for me tends to be too high for this next pose as we set up for Sphinx. So I'm going to use that smaller pillow. As we come to our belly, placing our bolster or even a rolled up blanket right underneath the chest, elbows in front. Start with the elbows directly under your shoulders, and then maybe take them a little bit away from the front of your body to make some space. You could even come into crocodile and take your elbows wide instead. Head can come down if you like. Rolling those shoulders back, but trying not to add too much tension to them. Maybe taking the feet out to the sides, but not having to manipulate or change anything. If it feels good, take them out to the sides. Just make sure that we're not tucking the toes. And softening the eyes, and I'll make sure to put our timer on because it's one of those poses that I actually love, and who knows, we might end up staying here a little longer than we want. Lifting maybe through the heart, and then breathing right into that heart chakra. So any distractions externally, internally that might be coming up, They're a reminder to anchor back down with our breath. Without coming into a practice of always distracting ourselves from any postures that might feel uncomfortable. See if there is maybe a habit or something that you're holding on to that you can shift. So maybe if it's gripping onto your mat, or maybe it's grinding the teeth, hopefully not. See if you can let go of those spaces or any adjustments that you might make in a hatha practice. Try to just simply be in this pose. Find some stillness. Taking 3 more breaths. You are using a prop. Gently just slide it out to the side. Take your elbows wide. Bring your forehead down to reset the back. We'll slowly press ourselves back into Sphinx. I would like to demo the next pose for a second, as it's not a pose that I usually incorporate in our practice. You might want to have a little peek first. As we come back to our spine, we're going to bring our right cheek down, our arms out to a T. And then from here, we're going to pick up our left leg and step it over. So you can either have the leg floating or bring the foot down. We're opening up through the chest here. You may even decide to take that arm up to the sky if you like. Find a bit more depth of the arm that's on the bottom. So I'll demo that one more time as we're on our chest, arms extend, right cheek down, lifting the opposite leg. So our left leg lifts off, steps behind us, both hands press into the ground, or take that arm. So that matches the leg that we just stepped over. So in my case, it's the left arm, reaching it up to the sky, opening up through our chest. And holding that there, softening any tension in the neck. We want to be really safe with the neck here. And if you have that hand extended, we're going to bring it back down to the ground. Bring the leg back as well. Opposite cheek to the earth. And then we'll switch sides. The right foot's going to step over, pressing that shoulder, maybe reaching that right arm up to the sky, or maybe bringing the hand back to the ground. Three more breaths. Start by bringing the hand back first, and then the leg. Elbows back out, start crocodile, head down. Kind of similar setup to what we just did. We're setting up for supine twist, but from our belly. So we'll walk our hands out long this time in front. Let's start with lifting the right elbow off to make a space to weave the left arm underneath, and then reach that arm behind us. And this time we're drawing that knee up to our chest. So we're coming right into that supine twist, arms extended, sliding that knee up. I'll demo it one more time. From our belly, lifting our right elbow, weaving our left arm underneath, and then rolling onto our shoulders, sliding the knee to our chest into our supine twist. And if you're practicing from home like I am tonight, and you have, a couch beside you, maybe you're actually using it as a little guide of how deep you want to go here. So I'm actually going to bend my elbow and remind myself that I don't need to overextend, or you can find any other adjustments. Always that option to place a bolster underneath the knee that's floating, a yoga block, a pillow, keeping that chest nice and open. We're slowly going to come onto our belly again. So that extended arm, we'll pick it up and we'll bring it with us. Roll onto your belly, elbows wide again, forehead down. And taking our arms long until the left elbow lifts this time. Right arm weaves underneath, rolling onto your shoulder. Left arm extends behind you. Slide the knee up to your chest, finding your twist. Remember to use props, and if you notice on the first side it was a little bit more challenging to settle in, great reminder to set yourself up. We'll slowly start to pick up that arm, roll back onto our belly. Maybe take the legs up as you bend your knees. And then taking the legs long and pressing yourself up and back into a child's pose. And we'll start to roll up. As we come to our spine, bring your bolster to the bottom of your mat. It's going to be there to rest your feet on. If you would like, you can watch first as we set up for shoelace. So crossing one knee over the other. We might be familiar with grabbing the legs in our hatha practice, but we want to make sure that we're not adding stress to the upper body. So I'm going to recommend using your bolster or pillow, crossing that other leg over and just bringing the foot to that bolster or pillow, arms extending out. And if that feels like you're having to grip, then just float the legs and bring them up into your chest. We want the knees stacked the best that they can, or you can always come into more of that figure four version instead. We'll slowly start to uncross the legs and simply just switch sides. The opposite leg's going to cross. Maybe breathing into that hip or lower back again, down the hamstrings. And gently uncrossing the legs and taking them long to the top of your mat. Finding your way into Shavasana, maybe adding any layers, tucking yourself in. Allowing the calves to be heavy, the tailbone to be heavy in the mat, shoulder blades to be heavy, the back of the skull to be heavy, and sending our breath nice and deep into the belly again. And drawing your breath in through the nose. We'll be taking a couple sighs out of the mouth. Our breath is our anchor. So each breath, maybe feel a bit more grounded on your mat. Feeling a bit more rooted in this space and in this moment. And wiggling fingers and toes to come back to the space. And I always recommend, because we're practicing from home, if you have time to stay a little longer on your mat in Shavasana, please do that for yourself if you can. But if you are ready to close out practice, rolling to our right side, so we can lead out of here on that left side. Slowly pressing ourselves up to come to seated. Bring our hands to our heart. Connecting our right side and our left side. Bowing our head down in gratitude for this practice and this time and space tonight. Thumbs to our forehead for our kind thoughts. To our mouth for our kind words. And to our heart, Anahata, for compassion. Thank you for joining me for Yin tonight. Hope you have a great rest of your evening. Namaste. And I wanted to say a big thank you to some of our local businesses that were able to sponsor the Pay It Forward program this month. Big shout out to Wild Lotus Floral Designs and Kempenfelt Windows and Doors. Neither one of them are online tonight, but they do practice regularly with us. And I wanted to give them a shout out to thank them for donating and being able to cover the cost of paying our teachers for November as we pay it forward back to you. So if you're shopping local, please be sure to check them out. I'll send all of that in the email because you're all zenned out right now. So don't feel like you have to do any of that homework. I'm going to pause the recording